Okay. Hello, my name is Duke, and I'm from the Orland Park Library. Welcome to the first American Job Center's virtual career series. Today's virtual career series is going to be Resume Workshop. Joining us today will be Hugo Avila and Javier Haro. They're from the Southwest Suburban Cook County American Job Center located in North Riverside. They will be sharing a 20 to 30-minute presentation, and then they will be taking questions after doing so. Also, at the end, I will be posting some links into the chat and Q&A that will send you to a more in-depth resource for you to check out. Please feel free to use the question and answer to ask questions. And if you want to use the chat box, if you're more comfortable, we'll be looking at both. If anyone is having a tech issue, please private message me and I'll try and help you the best I can. And so let's get started with Resume Workshop. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Duke. So once again, my name is Hugo. I am the Coordinator of Business Services for the Southwest Suburban Cook County American Job Center. We are part of the American Job Center network. There are 10 locations throughout the Cook County area. We are directly funded by the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership, and I have here as well Javier Haro, my counterpart. He'll be managing the chat with Duke in regards to any questions you have in regards to today's presentation. And of course, after the presentation, we'll be around to answer questions as well. I definitely recommend taking a look at the more detailed link that Duke will be providing in the chat for you in regards to today's presentation. Thank you so much. So today is Resume Bootcamp. So some of the things that we'll talk about today. And of course, if you would like to reach out to us, you can contact us at 708-222-3100. Our Facebook page is Serco Workforce. You can also email us at frontdeskajc@io.sercohq.com. And one of the things I recommend for everybody is to go to tinyurl.com/Serco Docs in order for you to download some supportive material. Some of the things you'll find there will be resume templates, cover letters, how-tos, action verbs, keywords, a lot of material that really allow you to get the most out of today's workshop presentation, especially if you're seeing this presentation later on as a recording. So some of the top subjects that we'll talk about today will be resume and application tracking systems. We'll go into a little bit more detail via the actual presentation. And if you join us for the next workshop we'll be having here at Orland Park, we'll go in regards to landing the interview and also mock interview. So today specifically is our focus on resumes. So one and foremost, I want to talk about before you even start gathering or creating a resume or choosing what style resume is the best for you, you want to think about one is collecting information. And the way I describe this is if you think back when you were smaller, when you were younger, and you were putting together a jigsaw puzzle, you wouldn't go into the jigsaw puzzle box and pull out one piece and then pull out another and stick those together and see if they fit. What would you do? You would pour out all the pieces, you would spread them around the table, you would take a look at what you have, and you start seeing what pieces start fitting together. And so that's the number one thing I recommend for people. When you start looking to create your resume, is start just collecting your information. Start collecting all your documents, transcripts, make sure you have all your identification, because you want to think about the process that you're going to take place here, right? You're looking to put your resume together because you're looking to start a process in regards to looking for employment. And that employment is a process in itself. And you're going to go through different stages of submission, of interviewing, and of course obtaining that job. And through that process they're going to ask of you different things or different documents, and you want to make sure you have, for lack of a better word, all your ducks in a row. And so first and foremost, when you're looking to start creating your resume, start collecting all your contact information. From there, gather your experience. Look at your previous job information, any copies of certification or awards you've obtained. Just start gathering. So the gathering part is what I would say is your first part. And of course, from there, start constructing your resume and putting information that matches the type of jobs you have done, the type of work you do. And I'll talk about a little later on some resources that can really allow you to, as I like to call it, beef up your resume in regards to verbiage and content. So some of the things you want to think about, and then this goes back to the supportive documents I mentioned a second ago, is take a look at the power verbs, action verbs, or keyword documents that are provided in tinyurl.com/Serco Docs to give you an idea of what type of wording or words you should be placing into your resume as you start constructing it. And my recommendation, as I mentioned, is first gather your information, see what you have, start putting it together. Don't worry if it doesn't look aesthetically pleasing. The aesthetically pleasing, the formatting, the spacing, that comes in the end. What's more important is making sure you have the proper content in the proper place. Now, when selecting a resume, there's 3 different styles of resumes out there. There's what's called a functional style resume, a chronological style resume, and a combination style resume. Now, each of these styles of resumes have their strengths and weaknesses, and they're best suited for different scenarios or situations. A functional style resume is best suited for those of us that have had sporadic work history or little to no work history. Maybe the type of work we were doing is not what I want to do anymore, or I'm just looking to make a career change and we're talking about entry-level type work. So a functional resume focus is not necessarily on where you've worked on and what you've done. It's more about having a conversation about what you could do or what you can do or what you're able to do for the employer. And keep those phrases in mind, what you're able to do, what you can do, and what you have an understanding of. Now, this is going to be really important when constructing that style of resume together because it's very entry level. So you're talking about things that you may have never done before, but you feel confident you could do it. You're talking about things that you have an understanding of, but have never actually done. So maybe I've taken an online course, but never actually have done the work I'm looking to pursue now. Maybe I have never actually done or had any work history before, but I am well enough of what the job duties and responsibilities are. It's a very entry-level role, and I'm interested in throwing my hat into the ring. So what's very different of a functional style resume compared to other styles of resumes out there is that the focus is not on your work history, but it's on what's called a skills section. And that skills section is where you're really just listing in bullet point fashion what the employer needs to know about you and your ability to perform the work or your understanding of the job that you're going to be doing. And if you go to tinyurl.com/circle docs, you'll be able to see some examples of what a functional resume looks like in reference. The second style resume is called chronological. Now, chronological is actually the most common style resume out there, and chronological simply means in order of time. This is the most common style resume out there because one, if you're using a word processing software like Microsoft Word or any other open office, and you type in resume and they have built-in resume templates on there, this is probably the #1 style resume you'll see. Now, no matter what style resume you choose, there's some form factors that should always remain the same. First and foremost, your contact information should always be on top. That's your name, number, address, email, additional links such as if you have a LinkedIn profile or links to a website that shows your creative media or projects you have done, those kind of things. And then from there, you should go into some sort of either objective statement or summary statement. Now, between the two, I personally recommend the summary statement, and I'll talk a little bit later on why. And then from there, you go to either education or work history, depending on what type of job you're looking at. And the job description, and no matter what type of job you're applying for, is really important because that tells you what the employer is looking for. So if the job description really emphasizes education over experience, then that tells you your education should go above your experience. If the job description emphasizes experience over education, then therefore experience over education in regards to the structure. Now, a chronological resume is best suited for those of us that have had steady work history. The kind of work I've done is the kind of work I still want to do. What I went to school with is what I'm looking to do. And if you're looking at the supportive documents that I've provided for you, you'll see that the example I provide there for you is Tina. And we see that Tina went to school for a financial certificate, and then she started working as a bank teller, and then she left that job to work at a different location as a bank teller. And if I had to make an assumption, she'll be looking to stay in the financial industry, probably as a bank teller, maybe the next lateral move up. So that makes sense. So chronological makes sense for those of us that have had steady work history. What I've done is what I want to do, and my education matches my career. Now, if that's you, this is a great resume. If you've had sporadic work history, what you did before is not necessarily what you want to do, or your education doesn't necessarily match the type of work you're looking for, it may be functional is the way to go. Now, the third style resume out there is called combination. And it's simply called combination because it takes the best of both worlds. It takes the steady work history of a chronological, and it takes the skill section of a functional style resume where you're specifically highlighting what the employer needs to know about you, and it combines those together. A combination style resume is best suited for those of us that are looking for more mid to upper level positions, and we need to stand out in our particular industry because it can be competitive. If you stop and think of the job market or job as a pyramid, the base is much larger than the top. think about it this way. If you were to walk into a retail store, there's probably several lanes of cashiers. Now, for those several cashiers that are posted at their lanes, there may only be one manager. Now, for that one manager, there may only be one department manager and a slew of departments within one store where it has one store manager. And then there's one regional manager to manage all the stores in a region. So if you think about employment, the higher you go up, the less opportunity there is. So what does that mean? That means that if you have certain level of education or certain level of experience, and you're looking for more mid to upper level positions, you may find that there's a lot more competition because there aren't that many jobs available, or companies or firms may not need to hire as many people to do that particular role. Most companies may only have one IT administrator. They may only have one human resources person, one payroll specialist, so on and so forth. So it can be very competitive to get that one slot for that one job. So what do? You need to make sure you stand out, because for those type of jobs, your education and your experience isn't really what's going to stand you out. Your education, your experience is what tells the employer you meet the minimum requirements for the role. The inclusion of a skill section can then tell that employer, this is why specifically I'm a perfect fit for this role. And once again, looking at the job description really allows you to know what you need to tailor or what you need to tell that employer about yourself to make that connection with that employer to say, this is how I'm a good fit for that particular job. So it's very important, one, to identify the skills and make sure you're making a good match for the job you're applying for. Once again, read the job description. That job description is telling you what the employer is looking for, what the duties, responsibilities, and expectations are of the role. And most importantly, never lie about your experience or your resume. The policy for most human resources is to automatically terminate on if they find that you've lied on an application submission or on resume, no matter if that's a week in, 3 months in, or a year out. They're not going to take in consideration your previous work performance because it's a character flaw. So don't lie. What you can do is come up with creative ways to say what you need to say. What do I mean by that? Say if I was applying for a job and one of the requirements is for me to use QuickBooks. So on the job description says, must be able to utilize QuickBooks for balancing accounts. Now, I've never used this particular program before, but I feel I'm a good fit because I meet the other criteria. I don't want this one particular line item to be what excludes me from applying for this particular role. What can I do? What I'm telling you to do is come up with a creative way to speak to the requirements of the job. So what you can do is maybe emphasize how you have experience in utilizing Excel, and you have lots of experience in balancing different balance sheets, utilizing Excel, and you're currently learning more about QuickBooks. Now, that's very important when it comes to keywords or buzzwords. So if you take a look at the more detailed presentation that's going to be provided later on by Duke, we'll go into application tracking systems, and you'll see then why it's so important to make sure you're using the right keywords or buzzwords to make sure your resume is standing out and moving past the application tracking system onto a human resources person or recruiter for review. Now, in regards to action verbs and keywords, it's very important to make sure when compiling your resume that you're using words that show that you're ready to go, right? A verb is an action statement where like running, jumping. And so you want to make sure you're saying things that are letting the employer know that you're ready to roll. You're ready to hit the ground running. You're either ready to start learning a particular item. You have the experience in being able to do something. So advertise clearly and explain what you have to offer and make sure you use those words. And of course, we provided for you a list of different action verbs and keywords that you can use based on your specific industry that you're currently looking employment for. So if you're an accountant, we provided words for you for accounting. If you're in customer service, we provided a list of words you can use to help you better describe yourself as a customer service person, the verbs you can use to really stand out. Or if I'm in healthcare, we provided that for you. So it's a nice list of different action verbs you can use based on your particular industry. Now, if the list we provided for you is not enough, well, heck, simply go on Google. If you were to go on Google and type in action verbs or keywords for accounting, truck driving, nursing, you'll get a lot of results back that'll give you some great direction or advice in regards to what you should be doing. Now, one website I recommend everybody use is called ONET Online. That's onetonline.org. Now, this is a website that the Department of Labor put together to do what's called ONET classification system. Now, the reason the Department of Labor put this website together is that they wanted to come up with a way where amongst different agencies, if they say machine operator, that everybody understands what they mean by a machine operator. If they say accountant, this is what you mean by accountant. And so they put together a system where they created job descriptions, and then they classified it with a code system called ONET coding. Now, for the purposes of our conversation right now, this is a great website I recommend you using for a couple of different ways. One, this is gonna really allow you to help you beef up your resume, really come up with the words that you should be putting on your resume. Because I just finished talking about, based on your particular scenario, what resume is the best suited for you. Now that you know what resume is the best suited for you, the hard part is coming up with the words to put into that resume to help describe what you're able to do. And this is a great website that allows you to do that. What do I mean by that? We simply go to occupation quick search on the top right. We type in whatever our particular job industry is or our job title. We get multiple selections. We choose whichever selection looks best. Once you click on one of these particular links, it would give you an actual job description. So what are we looking at here? They've already done the work for us. I am a firm believer in not reinventing the wheel here. So they've already done the work to describe me as a machine operator. So if I'm a machine operator and I'm having a really hard time describing what I used to do as a machine operator, this is a great place for me to go to. A little copy and paste can go a long way. Now, big disclaimer here. Make sure you read whatever you're gonna copy and paste over and make sure it's correct, accurate, and most importantly, truthful. You want to be truthful here. You don't want to lie. But there are 3 things you can do to help you really beef up the resume. Besides taking the content from here, is you can talk about how you have an understanding of a particular item. You talk about how you could do something or you can do something. And you can talk about how you can do something if trained. What do I mean by that? So let's take the particular example in front of us here. As a machine operator, it's my responsibility to observe machines, operate to detect workpieces, defects, or machine malfunctions, adjust machines as necessary. So if I have experience doing this, what would I say? Experience observing machine operation to detect, so on and so forth. The next line item here is set up and operate machines such as lathes, cutters, shears, borers, and mills. Let's say I have experience setting up, but I've never used a lathe or a cutter. Experience setting up and operating machines such as shears, borers, and mirrors. So a little removal of what I don't have. Now, inspect workpieces. What if I never done that before? I can say I can inspect workpieces for defects and measure workpieces once trained. Now, you want to think about what I just said there. If I was to say can inspect workpieces for defects and measure workpieces, and I put a period at the end of it, that would be a truthful statement. That would be a statement, and I'm saying it's truthful because I'm submitting it in my resume. And if it's not truthful, I just said don't lie on your resume. But because I added that last part, once trained, it takes it from me saying I am able to do this, or I can do this, or I have experience to this, to this is something I understand is part of the requirements for the job. So I'm going to put it on my resume, or part of my ability of what I know I could do if you were to train me. One of the things I find a lot of times with individuals is that they're quick to talk about that they're a quick learner, or if you were to train me, I'll get it, but they never actually reference what it is that needs to get trained or what you need training in. And so it's very important that you have that conversation, that you understand what your limitations are, or what you're able to bring to the table, and what you're willing to learn, and what you know about the role, and what you're able to do. Now, the other, read blueprints. I have an understanding of how to read blueprints. I'm not saying I ever did it, but I am saying that it's an important requirement for this job or this type of line of work. So I want to reference it. And once again, this is very important to making sure you're using these buzzwords or keywords when it comes to application tracking systems. And definitely take a look at the included link for the more detailed presentation of today to really get into application tracking systems. Now, the other thing you want to consider is consider your tenses. If I'm talking about a job I previously held, that's in the past. So you want to be conscious about using the proper tense. So if I was to say observed machines, it would be observed machines. I inspected, I read, I started, I selected, I moved, all past tense terms. Now, if it's something I'm doing now, I'm observing, I'm setting up, I'm reading, I'm starting. ING is a lot for present tense. So think about the tenses when you're putting together your resume and the content you're having there. So once again, ONET's a great website to allow you to really come up with keywords and buzzwords to really beef up your resume. Now, the other thing you can really use ONET for those of you that are looking for employment, this is a great website to give you what's called labor market information. As I mentioned, this website's from the Department of Labor. So what they've done here is to say, if this is you, if you're a machine operator, you can actually go scroll all the way to the bottom of this particular page, and then you'll see other job titles that you might be a good fit for if you have their experience listed above. And so this can give you a nice idea of what other jobs you should be looking at or other positions you should be applying for. Plus, it also gives you information such as if the particular position is still in demand, what the wage can be. It also gives you information in regards to what training opportunities there may be or what the educational requirements are for those type of roles. So as I mentioned, you'll definitely want to take a look at our more detailed presentation to get a better grasp of application tracking systems and cover letters and other content that's covered here. So I definitely appreciate your time. Thank you so much. We'll be available here, as I previously mentioned, to answer any additional questions. Please message us via the chat box. We are here, or you can also message us by calling us at 708-222-3100. Our Facebook page, as I mentioned, is Circle Workforce. If you're new to our Facebook page, like us, and you be kept up to date. We do host a variety of different workshops throughout the course of the week, plus upcoming events. I like to say our goal is to be able to connect individuals who are looking for work with companies that are looking to hire. We do manage a large book of employers that we have direct relationships with. You can also email us at frontdeskajc@il.circlehq.com. And of course, you'll want to go to tinyurl.com/circledocs. I'll keep this marquee up for our contact information and of course the URL for the supportive documents. Duke, I'll pass it back to you.
All right. All right. So right now I am actually going to put in the chat box the link. But if anyone has any questions for Javier or Hugo, feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat box. But I actually have to type it out right now. This should just take me one moment. But this is the resource that Javier was speaking about. So one moment here, almost done. And if you could just double check that this works, Javier. Once I put it in there, I believe that is it. So that is going in the, oh, that is, okay, here we go. Copy, I'll put in the Q&A actually. All panelists and attendees, there we go. That's the link. Let me just double check. Yep, that looks like it's it.
Thank you.
So, did it open up right away for you, Javier? Let me try it.
Yes. So the that's the direct link for the full presentation.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the Q&A, but I see it in the chat.
Yeah, I put it in the chat.
Okay.
Oh, you're currently sharing your email there. Okay, just letting you know. All right, any questions, last minute concerns? Did everybody see the link in the chat box? Here, I'll leave it open for just a little bit longer, just so everybody gets a chance. But yes, if nobody has any questions, thank you, Javier. Thank you, Hugo. Oh, wait a minute. The link is in the chat box. I put it in there to all panelists and attendees. You should be able to see it. But you know what? Here, I will send it to you. Again, one moment. Okay, and there you are. Oh, no problem. No problem.
Sorry about that, Duke. When I clicked on the link to confirm it, it popped open on the page I had open. And so when I closed it, it closed me out. And that's why you were just seeing my actual desktop.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
But I do have it up now. Is that correct?
Yeah, you have your information.
Okay.
Okay, so I think everybody got the link. I do want to thank you, Javier and Hugo, for doing this presentation with us, and we have two more that we have scheduled with you guys. So thank you so much. And
Thank you.
is there anything you guys need from me before we end it?
No, I'm good. I'm more happy to answer any questions people might have specifically about any situations they have. I know some of the things I've gotten in the past were scenarios where I've been out of work for the past 2 years. What do you recommend I put in my resume? Or I'm looking for a job in this particular industry. Any suggestions on how I should structure my resume for that? Those are the
Right.
kinds of things I've heard in the past. Any questions in regards to something like that that I can answer for any of the participants today?
So you heard them. If there's anything you have. Oh, no problem. No problem, Felicia. Thank you. We'll just give it a couple minutes then, and then we'll close it. I want to thank the attendees for also coming and listening. Thank you.
No, of course. Thank you, Duke, and the Orland Park Library for hosting this kind of event and allowing us to participate. One of the other things too, since I guess we have some time, I'm more happy to talk also about, we personally leverage the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, or a lot of people know it as the WIOA program.
Mhm.
And so specifically what we do is we're able to leverage federal dollars to help individuals that are looking to go back to school to obtain license certification programs. And the idea and the
Real quick,
focus
I'm
here,
sorry. I don't.
oh, go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt you. We do
Mhm.
have a question. Maybe
Okay.
if you, I don't know. I don't know if
Yes,
you
no, of
want to
course.
finish what you were saying or address that first. Do you?
No, I'm more happy to address the question. I'll go back to the statement.
Okay. It's in the Q&A. Do you see it?
Yep. I have been out of work for 4 years as a caregiver for parents. Tips for returning to the job market.
So I guess what I like to know is, generally speaking, my advice to you would be, is I would include on the fact that you were a personal caregiver. So I would write that as a job title. So normally when you write a job title in regards to where you've worked at and what you've done, you would have the name of the company first, the location of that company, the duration of time you were at that particular company, and then in the next sentence, you would have your job title. So I would treat your daycare or home care that you did as just like a job, because you did that for the past 5 years. And so employers, the number one question you'll get in an interview is, what have you been doing? So you'll want to answer that question preemptively ahead of the time. You want them to know you were a personal caregiver, right? You'll write personal caregiver, and you'll write from the duration of time you started being a personal caregiver to the time it ended being a personal caregiver. You'll list some of the duties and responsibilities you did as a personal caregiver to show them and explain to somebody what you actually did or what a personal caregiver was. Because what you never want to do is run into an assumption that somebody understands what you did or what your duty and responsibilities were. And this is why I also emphasize so much the point of using a website like ONET Online to really help you beef up what your job description information is. Now, if the type of work you're looking for has completely nothing to do with being a personal daycare caregiver, then obviously I wouldn't recommend you going into a lot of detail. So you do still want to have that job title that says personal daycare, the time and duration you did that type of work for, or you cared for your loved one, and then maybe 2 to 3 bullet points just emphasizing what you did. But I would say include a skill section. And if you take a look at the example that I provide in the supportive documents for a functional or combination style, where it has the inclusion of a skill section, include that skill section, and there is where you can really talk about the duties and responsibilities and experience that you have in regards to the job you're looking to go into. Because the nice thing about a skill section is that, unlike, say, a combination style example, it doesn't confine you to.
Did your mom take it away? Or ask her then. What are you asking me for?
Oh, there you go.
Hello? There you
Hello? Okay.
go. So the nice thing about a skill section is that, one, it doesn't confine you. Where, for example, normally if you look at a resume, you talk about how you worked at Chase Bank, and at Chase Bank is where you talk about all the things you did at Chase Bank. And prior to that, you worked at Wells Fargo. And so under that Wells Fargo section is where you talk about all the things you did at Wells Fargo. So one, you're confined to the area you worked at, and you can only talk about those things you did in that particular job and that particular time. So what's nice about a skill section is that it doesn't box you in to a duration of time or where you worked at or when you did these things. It's more about a conversation. Hey, Mr. Employer, this is what I know you need to know about me based on the job description. So let me reference my experience in the following areas, and you list that kind of in the bullet points. So I would definitely recommend one, maybe switching over to a functional resume because the focus isn't necessarily on where you worked at and what you did. So it's able to hide maybe the gaps of employment you had or the long gap you've had since employment. And then the focus of that skill section really allows you to talk about, hey, Mr. Employer, I'm getting back into the job market. This is what I did. So I am referencing that there. It's a one-liner, 2-3 bullet points at most. But here, let me have that big section, skill section, where I'm talking to you about the specific experience I do have for this particular job I'm applying for. Does that help answer that question?
And they answered. So I think it did.
All right, awesome, awesome. That's fantastic. And then I think that's the other thing to understand too. I mentioned in the presentation, the most common style resume I see out there. So part of my job is to help source and recruit candidates for the different employers that we have relationships with. And so I come across a lot of resumes. And so chronological style resume is the most common one I see out there. But in reality, it's not the best suited because if I do have large gaps of in my employment, or if I skipped around different jobs because I lost a job and I needed to get into a new job right away, it really highlights that, which is not the best light to put upon yourself when you're trying to come off as somebody that's going to stick around, someone who has longevity, or someone who's serious. In reality, a lot of employers look at these gaps or these different positions as somebody who's maybe a flight risk, and so they're less likely to bring on there. Now, if you take a look at the presentation in more detail, and it talks about application tracking systems, one of the statements that's made, or one of the points that's made there, is that application tracking systems are a piece of software that employers use to screen out or applications or resumes for eligibility to proceed in the hiring process. And so some of these things that these application tracking systems can do is also work in variables. So I can tell you there's employers out there who have programmed these pieces of software to say, if someone hasn't worked in the past year, kick them out because I don't want to deal with somebody who has had short or low work history. Is that right? Is that wrong? It's hard to say depending on who the employer is and those kind of things. The other thing could be, it can say, if somebody has a current job, have they been there more than a year, or are they looking to skip jobs? And so there's a lot of assumptions that get made sometimes. And so you want to be aware of what you may be accidentally saying about yourself on your resume because of the style resume you're choosing and also the content you're putting into your resume. And so sometimes you may want to exclude content because you don't want it to take your prospects on a different route. You don't want somebody to look at your resume and say, oh, I see you went to school for nursing, so you must want to be a nurse, so I'm not going to consider you for this sales associate position, even though you're interested in that position right now because that's where you are in life. Yes. So one of the things I mentioned is our office, we're located in North Riverside, the intersection of Harlem and Cermak. So we leverage what's called the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, or WIO as a lot of people know it. And so this is a federal program from the Department of Labor where we're able to help individuals that are eligible and suitable to be able to obtain license certification programs. So we are actually able to pay for you to go back to school to make yourself more marketable, to go back into the job market. So our focus is always to help people get back to work. And we understand that sometimes in order for somebody to go back to the employment market is they need an upskill. They need to get re-educated or obtain a certain certification or license in order to get back into a particular industry or even make a change to a different industry. So in regards to some of the things that we pay for certification licenses in the IT industry, such as Microsoft Office, Cisco, A+, Network Plus, Security Plus. We pay for healthcare such as LPNs, patient care techs, sonographers, phlebotomists, registered nurses. In transportation logistics, we do everything from getting your CDL. We help pay for you to do that. Forklift driving. We do manufacturing such as computer numeric control or CNC, machine operating, welding. On the financial side, we help with things like human resource manager certification or accounting certifications or business certifications. The most important thing is if it's something that's in demand and it's needed, we probably help you pay for that. Now, there is a website that we do leverage and manage that helps you get a better idea of what we're willing to pay for. But generally speaking, if it's a program offered by one of the local community colleges whether that's City of Chicago or the Suburban Community Colleges, we tend to pay for those because we have a direct relationship with those community colleges. Or if it's offered by a vocational school, we tend to pay for that. But let me go ahead and type in the website you'll want to go to if you want to take a look at that. That's illinoisworknet.org. If I'm not mistaken, let me just confirm this website with you before I post it in the chat, just because I'm going off the top of my head here on the actual website. So give me 1 second and I'll type in that into the chat box. What it is I'm not sure if it's .org or .com. Sometimes they switch it around because it's a state website, it might be .org, or because it's an offshoot from the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, they might have put the .com on there. So just 1 second and I'll confirm for you now.
Hey, Hugo, there's a question that came in the chat box that says, will you continue to elaborate on the organization financing training or certification for an individual? So basically, they're trying to find out how they could find out more information or plug into the WIOA program, which is basically our office.
Of course. So I just put in there the link to the state's website, which is illinoisworknet.com. That shows you what programs we are willing to pay for under the WIOA program. If you're eligible, general eligibility falls into two categories. You're either what we call a dislocated worker. We have a direct relationship with the employment office. So we are able to help individuals who are eligible to collect unemployment or collect unemployment or have exhausted employment benefits. That's one way to be eligible. And the other is we're here to help most in need. And what I mean by that is if you're someone who is at the poverty level set forth by federal government guidelines, or you may be already receiving some sort of government aid like food stamps, that's generally another criteria. There may be other possible ways, but what I would say, and let me bring this up again, is the marquee I had up here for you, our contact information here. So what I would say is give us a call, 708-222-3100, or you can email us at frontdeskajc@il.sercohu.com, especially if you're looking to take advantage of this program. Now, we are set up to help all Cook County residents. So in regards to employment opportunities, we do manage a Facebook page, which I mentioned is Serco Workforce. We're constantly posting different job opportunities there. We host different job readiness workshops and trainings. Just today, Javier, my counterpart, who's here on the call, on the presentation with us, just had a, he does this every Thursday at 10, which is a hot jobs where he identifies different employers that we have relationship with, lets you know who's hiring and for what roles, and what's that application process look like, and also you can access a virtual job board that we manage and we update on a weekly basis. So calling us or emailing us is a good way to get involved, especially if you're looking to go back to school, which we consider more of a premium service. And so you do actually have to be registered and be part of our program. So there is some eligibility criteria. I just mentioned the two main categories people need to fall in, and specifically the other is our geographical area is Cook County. So you do have to be a Cook County resident in order for us to assist you, but this is a federal program. So if you don't happen to live in Cook County, whether it's DePage or some of the other collar counties, they'll have that program as well. You just need to contact them. The same website I provided here in the chat is also a website where you can find out what the different locations or closest location to you is as well. I hope that answers that particular question.
So we do have another just comment. Do you see it?
Yeah, I spoke with the unemployment today. I was told the program has ceased due to COVID.
I assume you may mean the extended unemployment benefits. If you're talking to the employment office, may have ceased. So that may be the case if that's what they told you. But if you're talking about if you're referring to what I just mentioned about the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, no, that program is alive and well. And actually, I just had a meeting today where we got confirmation that we renewed our contract for another year to manage and administer this program for the county, for the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership, as I mentioned, is our direct funder to manage this Department of Labor grant program. So no, this program is alive and well. We are seeing people on a daily basis, completing applications, submitting requests for vouchers and all those kind of things to help people go back to school, or just helping you in regards to looking for employment. So if you're referring to WIOA, that's alive and well. If you're talking about maybe the additional federal assistance during this COVID for unemployment. That may have ended. My understanding, though, that was going till the middle of July. But if you heard it from unemployment, then I would rely them as a primary source.
All right. So, if is there any more? Are there any more questions? If not, we can wrap up. Is there any last minute things you wanted to say, Javier?
No, the only thing I would add is, in addition to what Hugo said, if you've been out of work for a while, one good helpful tip to put on your resume is maybe start taking some online courses. There's some that are 6 weeks long, some are a little bit shorter, some a little bit longer. Many of them are free if you go to certain websites like Coursera, edX, and a few others. So that's another way to kind of show an employer like, hey, I've been out of the job market, or I haven't been doing exactly, that which I'm experiencing, but I haven't been sitting home just watching soap operas and cartoons. I've been staying busy with, getting some certifications and credentials. And so I would just encourage, folks to take advantage of this time to also take, online courses.
Mm.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And the more detailed presentation, I do touch base on that. And I also recommend putting that kind of content under your education as well. And anything you can do to volunteer work or extracurriculars that you're doing that keeping you active, don't be afraid to put that on your resume. So you may want to play around with, for example, instead of calling it work experience, you may just call it relevant experience. So you're talking about things that are relevant, but not necessarily work related. And so that gives you a place now on your resume. So wording plays a big factor when it comes to your resume. Links and type and information is very important too. So definitely take a look at the more detailed presentation to really get a lot more of what was covered today. And of course, go to tinyurl.com/circle-docs for all the supportive materials we have on there. That same website is also going to give you a lot of supportive materials for the next upcoming in this series, which will be interviewing.
All right. Well, excellent. Thank you to Hugo and Javier, the Orland Park Library. Thank you. I thank you. And thank you, everyone, for coming to listen.